Welcome, I'm Dr. Leonard Bright. In this episode, I'm going to explore how I believe my university retaliated against me and my salary after I filed an EEOC complaint. I will focus particularly on the salary investigation that followed and the steps that I took to get the situation addressed. Let's get started. After I filed my EEOC complaint, my department head determined that I was supposedly in need of an improvement plan. However, her improvement plan was quickly scrapped when I proved that her assessment was wholly inconsistent with the department's bylaws and my actual performance. The university rescinded her assessment and required that she increase my evaluation rating to satisfactory. Then the department head oddly claimed that a higher rating did not result in a higher salary increase. She attempted to explain how she picked the performance categories that each faculty fell within using her own highly biased judgment. You can bet that I was the black jelly bean stuck to the bottom of the bowl. Let's take a look.
So, in the review process, who were the people? How did Dr. Bright fare as far as from year to year, and how people were ranked?
I have looked at Dr. Bright's letters historically, and I have, of course, my own context for all of the reviews that I conducted. So Dr. Bright was in, I essentially divided the faculty into three tranches. Those who kind of like the highest performing group, a middle group, and a third tier. Dr. Bright was in the third tier.
Okay.
And can you give us a little bit more context of how you made that decision of?
Sure. I took the annual review materials from each of the faculty members, and I provided them with a Likert scale ranking on their teaching, their research, and their service, ranging from 1 to 5 on those rankings, and then calculated a weighted average score over the three activities: teaching, research, and service. And then that gave me a distribution of scores, and I identified cut points on that distribution of scores as to who was in the top performing group, who was in the middle performing group, and who was in the third tranche, in order to be able to divvy up the amazingly small merit pool.
This is based on a Likert scale, not on specific metrics, if you will.
It was based on the kind of scale that runs from unsatisfactory, needs improvement, kind of as expected, exceeds expectations, and greatly exceeds expectations.
How many people were in the third tier other than Dr. Bright?
There were 8 in the third tier. There were 3 in the middle tier, and there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in the top tier.
Later in the hearing, under more intense questioning, she revealed that she was working on a salary study to increase the salary of her fellow economists in the department. Here's what she said.
I'm actually working on a project with Dr. on the publication records of faculty and the salaries of faculty in schools of public affairs and how those compare to faculty members in schools, in departments of economics and departments of political science, because there is substantially a differential there. Economists tend to be paid more in disciplinary departments than in schools of public affairs. Political scientists tend to be paid less in disciplinary departments than in schools of public affairs.
After I heard this, I knew that there was much more to this story. So I looked and discovered that she had quietly given an across-the-board salary increase to every associate professor in my department, who were all economists except me, using her own salary study. Aside from the ethical questions of whether this was a financial conflict of interest, I challenged her decision on the basis of internal equity and discrimination. So, not only did she refuse to give me the salary increase that I was due, she also withheld from me an additional across-the-board increase that she gave to every one of my peers except me. I didn't settle for this for 1 minute. The University Grievous Committee concluded its investigation and issued a comprehensive report to the provost. However, instead of providing me with a copy of the report, which is typical, the university decided to hide the report from me. Thankfully, I was able to obtain anonymously a draft copy of this report a few years later. The University Grievous Committee issued pages and pages of findings and recommendations. Here are a few of those findings that are relevant to my annual review and salary complaints. The 2020 University Grievance Committee Hearing Subcommittee wrote the following statements. The department head's review, especially making use of subjective Likert scales, is open to charges of bias. The department does not appear to have specific annual review standards for research activities. The Grievance Committee believes that the claims of inherent bias that Dr. Bright has raised seem justified under the circumstances. Despite what the UGC uncovered, the university refused to initiate a comprehensive salary investigation. But I continued to press the university to conduct one. After I lodged several other complaints, 2 years later, the university agreed to conduct one. Here's what the committee found. The 2022 Salary Investigation Committee wrote the following statement. Dr. Bright's salary seems low. The justification for treating all economists differently because they are economists appears pretextual. The department has not assessed Dr. Bright's publication outlets clearly or consistently. There is a salary discrepancy that exists in the department which does not stand the scrutiny of equity, merit, and consistency in evaluation. Based on the findings of the salary investigation, the university made the following decision. Dr. Bright's salary should be adjusted upwards to recognize his time and rank and consistent productivity across the years. Both elements should be sufficient to justify moving him into the range of the 3 economists faculty in his department. All 3 have less time and rank, and cumulative productivity is lower or comparable. There are at least 4 takeaways from this series on workplace retaliation. First, workplace retaliation spreads like cancer. It is likely that if you find it in one area, you're likely to find it in other areas of your workplace experience. In my case, the department head and dean's anger and retaliatory animus quickly spread from my promotion process to my salary and annual reviews. I had to keep a lookout for these problems because ignoring them would not make them go away. The second takeaway is that the most effective way of addressing workplace retaliation is with evidence. Don't accept your organization's reasoning of its treatment of you without hard evidence. Make them prove it. Ask for information that you can use to compare your treatment to the treatment of your peers. This will give you a much more complete picture of what's happening in your workplace. Now keep in mind, you may face resistance from your organization to provide this information to you. When this happens, you're going to have to find alternative ways of getting this information. In my case, I used the EEOC, internal grievances, and I found publicly available information that I could use to support my allegations. The third takeaway is that managers can be the problem when dealing with workplace retaliation. When this happens, it is most likely because your managers lack the will or the skill to proactively solve problems. In my opinion, I had very ineffective managers who were more interested in protecting themselves and the university. So instead of addressing the clear signs of retaliation in my annual reviews and salary, they instead decided to hide the UGC report from me. Lastly, and above all, it takes time to resolve problems in the workplace. So you're going to have to prepare yourself for the long haul. I fought retaliation and discrimination in my workplaces for years. Never stop fighting for yourself, no matter how long it takes. I took my complaints through each decision-making level. I refused to take no for an answer, and I stayed optimistic. You can do the same. I did get most of the salary increase that I had earned, but as the written reports showed, I had to do more than my peers who received promotions, significant salary increases, professorships, despite doing less. I want to show researchers and others how crucial it is that we look into the dirty crevices where these types of practices are hidden and covered by people who turn a blind eye. Thank you for watching. Hit the like button and subscribe to my channel to receive updates on when new videos are available. I really enjoy bringing light, my expertise and experience to these kinds of difficult problems. I want you to stay encouraged and know that you too can make it through.